Okay, it's a great chus. I've been invited. Rabbi Shlita and Rabbi Pinchas. I'm going to have to pronounce his name right. Tavakoli, right? Okay, good. To come to speak to all of you on this such a special night, the night before Rosh Hashana, the night before a great morning of Slichot, and hopefully we'll be able to be inspired together. There's a very interesting Rashi at the end of Parshas B'Shalach that teaches us a very, very important lesson. And after Rashi teaches us this lesson, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivas Chaim Berlin, an absolute genius, brings out something that we should all learn from tonight, and that will be the theme of what we are going to talk about. At the end of Parshas B'Shalach, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu that he should pick out soldiers to fight against Amalek. And what Moshe Rabbeinu does, the Pasuk tells us in Shemos Yud Zayin Pasuk Tes, Vayelem Moshe el Yeshua, Moshe said to Yeshua, Bechar lonu anoshim, let's pick out people, V'tzei hilochem ba'Amalek, and we are going to fight against Amalek. Now Rashi says, look how Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to his Talmud Yeshua. He's treating him like an equal. Bechar lonu, me and you. Rashi says, Liv aloch, me and you, hashvei oloi. He treated him like an equal. Mikan omru, from here we learn, Yehi kavoi talmidoch chaviv alecha keshalach. The kavod of your Talmud should be just as important as your own kavod. Every one of us wants to be respected. Everyone wants to be loved and validated. So a Rebbe has a Talmud. He should treat the Talmud just like he would like to be treated. Treat him like an equal. And that's what Rashi is telling us from the words Bechar Lonu, me and you. And he treated him like an equal. So Rav Hutner asked a question. He said, that's a very important lesson, that you should treat your Talmud like you want to be treated. But what's it got to do here? Why isn't it by Hilchas Talmud Torah? Or why isn't it by the halachas of Yahavta l'Recha Kamoicha? What is it doing over here at the end of B'Shalach? And he says something very interesting. He says, today we know that we have the mitzvah to get rid of Amalek. Who is Amalek? Where is Amalek? What is Amalek? So he says, take a look at the last pasuk in Parshas B'Shalach, and it says like this: Milchama l'Hashem ba'Amalek. The war that Hashem has against Amalek, what is that war? Midor dor. Anything that doesn't allow us to give over the Torah from one generation to the other generation, anything that curtails that, that's Amalek. In other words, Amalek could be a person, Amalek could be a group of people, Amalek could be social media, Amalek could be terrible advertisements, anything that makes it that the next generation doesn't want to accept the Torah and accept everything that we want to teach them, that is Amalek. So what the Pasuk is telling us, that if you want to make sure that you can give over to your Talmidim and to your children and to your relatives and to your co-workers, you want to give them over the beauty of Torah, then it can only be Yehi kavoi talmid chaviv alecha keshalach, that the person that you're trying to teach or to inspire, you give them the right dignity and the right kavod. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about building people by giving compliments. When you give a compliment to someone, you build them, you motivate them, you empower them, and you validate them. You make them feel special. And many, many people find it very hard to give a compliment, to say something nice to somebody else about themselves. But that's the only way that you're going to be able to give over the message that you want to give over. And so I want to share with you an amazing story. Now, the first time when I told this story a few months ago, I told it in Brooklyn, I got a lot of emails, and people said it's impossible. Such a story could never happen. Well, I know that I got it from somebody that I trust 100%, Rav Gedalia Zlotowitz from Motzgrove, and I know that he wouldn't tell me a story that he didn't know to be 1,000% true. So I called him up and I said, listen, I believe you. I told that story in public. But a lot of people are wondering if it really happened. So you didn't tell me the name of the person to whom it happened. Could you do me a favor? Either tell me his name or call him and ask him if I could call him. to find out exactly how it happened. Because I think you told it to me, but I just want to double check it with him. He said, okay, fine, I'll call the person. He calls the person, he calls him back in 2 hours. He said, the guy said you could call him, but when he talks to you and he tells you the story, you can never use his name because he's embarrassed, as you'll all see in a moment. I said, of course, I'll be happy to. I called a fellow who I happen to know. I didn't realize that it was him, but I happen to know, and many of you know his name because he's a great person today. But he said, I'll tell you exactly how the story happened. Now, a few months ago, there was a terrible tragedy in Klal Yisrael. There was a man, his name was Rabbi David Trank. Rabbi David Trank was a menahel, a principal in a school, and a Rebbe for more than 50 years. He was married to my cousin, Leah Bagri, who of course became Leah Trank. And I knew him very well. And he loved every Talmud that he had. And he loved every Jew. And anytime you saw a Jew, he always gave chizuk, he always made the person feel so special. Many times when he was in class, he would read one of the stories from my books to the boys, and then he would call me up and he would say, I want you to know, I just read one of your stories, it's so good, continue writing, it makes everybody inspired. I thanked him very much. But I knew he talked like that to everybody, because everybody thought they were his best friend. But of course they were wrong, because I was his best friend. Because everybody felt that way. And so what happened was like this. This boy, who was in the yeshiva where Rabbi Trank was teaching, and that yeshiva specialized with kids that were almost going off the derech, and they needed a lot of love and attention. This boy told me he was 16 years old. He didn't have a driver's license even. And one Friday night, he stole the Rebbe's car. He went to the Rebbe's parking lot, and he stole the car from the yeshiva parking lot. And another boy saw him. He said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to the movies. So the other boy said, could you take me? So the kid said, what, are you crazy? I'm doing something wrong and you want me to take you? He said, well, I'm going to get you in trouble if you don't take me. He said, you can do whatever you want, but I'm not taking you. And the boy, I don't know how he got the keys, but whatever. Again, he didn't have a license, and he drove to the movie theater, which was 1.5 miles away from the yeshiva. Now he told me it was a big theater. He was sitting watching the movie, and after a little while, he realizes somebody's sitting down next to him. He takes a look, it's his Rebbe. He can't believe it. He said, Rebbe, what are you doing here? I said, well, I came to tell you something. He said, how'd you get here? He said, I walked. He said, you walked so far, I feel so bad you had to walk. He said, what do you want to tell me? He said, I want to tell you that the popcorn that they sell here in the theater is not kosher. So please, tonight, don't buy any of the popcorn. And don't buy any of the food in the movie theater because it's treif. And if you eat something that's treif, it could affect your neshama. And he turns to the Rebbe, he said, that's what you want to tell me? He said, yeah, that's it. That's why I came to tell you. The guy could not believe it. And the Rebbe stood up, and they said, okay, I'll see you in the yeshiva. And listen what the boy did. He held on to the Rebbe's hand. He said, Rebbe, don't go. I'm going with you. And he walked out of the theater together with the Rebbe. They left the car in the parking lot. And he told me it took over an hour to walk back to the yeshiva. And he said, we spoke about everything, except not once did he mention anything about the car, and not once did he mention anything about the movies. He said, when we got back to the yeshiva, I turned to my Rebbe, and I said to him, I swear I will never be Machal Shabbos again. And he never was Machal Shabbos again. And he became a very important person in Klal Yisrael. If I would tell you his name or the organization that he works for, you would faint. Because many of you know his name, but of course he doesn't want I should say it. We can understand that. But look what happened. Look what Rabbi Train did, the genius. Instead of blowing this guy away and making him feel worse than he probably felt, he got the message across in a very delicate way. And once he knew the guy got the message, then he was ready to leave. And that's what building somebody is. That's what making somebody feel special. So I want to tell you about a compliment that somebody gave that affected every one of us here tonight. and affected probably every single one of the tens of thousands that are going to watch this on TorahAnytime.com. You see, many of you may know, of course, that we have many, many summer camps. And when I was a teenage boy, and even before, I loved going to camp every summer. Went to the same camp. It was a place called Camp Aguda in Ferndale. And one of the highlights of camp is color war. Everybody knows what color war is? Those people not born in America may not realize what color war is. But basically you divide the camp in two parts, and there's competition in learning and in athletics. And one of the things that there's a competition is that each side has to have an artist that draws a banner, a beautiful banner. And that becomes like the flag of that team. So when I was in color war, I lost every single time, except once. Hashem had Rahman Azami. When I was general, that was the only time I won. Thank God, at least that. But when I was a general coach, you had to pick out a good artist. So the best artist in our camp was a guy by the name of Meir Zlotowitz. He was a fabulous artist. And everybody wanted to pick him on their team because he could draw a banner very well. And eventually, he got older and he finished camp life and he learned in a kollel. He became very close to Rabbi Feinstein. And then he opened up a business. Now, of course, being that he was a good artist, so he would draw manuscripts and scrolls because many yeshivas, they give a prize or give an award to somebody who gave money or did something for the school. So he would draw a scroll or a manuscript and a piece of art, and they would give it to the person. And the name of his business was called Art Scroll, because he was an artist and he drew scrolls. Now, when we were in camp, there was another boy named Meir. His name was Meir Fogel. And Meir Fogel got married young, and he had a wife, but they never had any children, and Meir died. Meir Fogel died. And Meir Zlotowitz was a good friend of his. So Meir Zlotowitz decided in 1975 that, you know what, I want to do something for the neshama of my friend Meir Fogel. So what he did was, he started writing a commentary on Megillah Esther. And he wrote on the whole Megillah, and then he got Rabbi Nasser Sherman, who was at that time a principal in the Stolny Yeshiva, to write an introduction. And he was going to give it out to people, so people could read it before Purim and on Purim. And anybody who would be inspired, it would be a source for the neshama of Meir Fogel. But then he showed it to Rabbi David Cohen. Rabbi David Cohen is a tremendous Talmud Chacham, one of the Gedolei Hador, and he was a very good friend of Meir Zlotowitz. And when he showed it to Rabbi Cohen said, "You can't just give this away. You got to publish this. The whole world has to read this. It's tremendous. It's a great piece of work." He said, "What do you mean? How am I going to publish this? I'm not a publisher. Feldheim is a Jewish publisher. He publishes Jewish books." So Rabbi David said, "Publish it under your business name, Art Scroll." So he said, "Yeah, you really think it's so good?" He said, "I'm telling you, it's great." And so they printed so many that within 2 or 3 weeks before Purim, they sold 20,000 copies. 20,000. I remember when it first came out, people were going crazy because it was so well written. And it was done with such beautiful artwork. The cover and the layout of it was great. And then he thought, you know something? If people like this from Esther, Megillah Esther for Purim, maybe I'll write Rus for Shavuos, and then Eicha for Tisha B'Av, and then Kehelas for Sukkot, and Shir Hashirim for Paysach. And that's how Art Scroll began. Every one of us here, every one of us, every Jew in the world, any Orthodox Jew that speaks English has at least one Art Scroll book. Either a Chumash, a Gemara, a Machzor, a Siddur, or a Maggid book, I hope. But everybody's got something from Art Scroll. How did that happen? One compliment. Rabbi David Cohen told him he has not to publish it because it's terrific. What if he wouldn't have told it to him? Say you would have given it out to a few friends and we'd never have it. He changed learning for the Orthodox Jewish people who speak English in a few weeks, a few months I should say, on January 1, 2020, there are going to be 100,000 people in MetLife Stadium for the Siyam HaShas. Half of those people, for sure, 30,000 people who finished Shas, finished it with the Armstrong Shas, with the Schottenstein Shas. A lot of these people would never be able to learn Shas without the English translation, which is terrific. One person, of course, he wasn't the only one who wrote. Once it started, so then, of course, he got other people to work for them. And Armstrong is a big firm today. Very big firm. And they do just tremendous things. It all started because of a compliment. And that's what we have to learn tonight. How do we give chizuk to our children, to our talmidim, to our talmidos, to our family members that are not religious and we want to inspire them, to our co-workers that we want them to celebrate a Chag and celebrate Shabbat? How do we do that? Only by building, not chas v'shalom by breaking. So I want to show you something, and I hope that you'll be able to see it as I hold it up. And if not, you'll come up here afterwards and you'll see the pictures. But I want to tell you an amazing thing. So what happened was, 3 months ago, I got a call from Houston, Texas. And I was a Kola fellow, and he says, Rabbi Krohn, do you remember that you were in Houston a couple years ago? I said, yeah. He says, you remember you met a kid with one hand? I said, I met a kid with one hand? I would think that I would remember that. He says, well, you did. He said, you know, that boy is having a bar mitzvah this Shabbat. And a couple of weeks ago, he told his father that, remember Rabbi Krohn was here a few years ago, he told me that if we send him an invitation to the bar mitzvah, he's going to try to come. So he said to his daddy, Daddy, could we send Rabbi Krohn an invitation to the bar mitzvah? Father said no. He said, no, why not? So the father said, because you see, Rabbi Krohn's a very nice man. And he's very busy. But if he gets an invitation, so he's going to feel that maybe he has to come. And it might really be a tircha, it might be a bother for him because he's very busy. So I don't want to send him an invitation. So this caller guy says, the little boy couldn't argue with his father, but he felt bad. So would you mind calling him to give him a bracha? I said, of course not. Give me his number, I'll call him in a second. Sure enough, I get his number. 5 minutes later, I get on the phone with Nehemiah Passel from Houston, and we start talking. Now, I was gonna not talk about tefillin, because the kid's got one hand, right? So we spoke about everything else. So I said to him, are you gonna read the Torah this Shabbat? He said, yeah, Rabbi, yeah, of course. I said, are you gonna be the Chazan? You know, maybe Shacharit or Musaf on Shabbat? He said, yeah, of course. I even put on tefillin. I said, tefillin? What do you mean, you put on tefillin? Somebody told me you got only one hand. Am I talking to the right kid? He said, yeah, of course. I said, how do you do it? He said, it's no problem, I'll show you. I said, how are you going to show me? He said, I'll send you a picture. And he sent me 4 pictures. You could see these pictures. You could either cry or faint, one of them. Here, if you could see it, he has only part of his right hand to his elbow, and there's one finger sticking out. But with the left hand, he puts on the tefillin, and if you can see it on this picture, it'll come up afterwards, you'll see the straps. You have to wrap it 7 times, but he's got no room on that arm. So he wraps it very, very tight. And I'm talking to him, I'm so impressed with the holiness of this child that he sends me a picture of him reading the Torah. This is his father Brian next to him, and he's holding a pointer, the yad, with his left hand, and he's reading the Torah. It's amazing. Amazing kid. And then as I'm talking to him, suddenly it occurs to me, hey, wait a second. I'm not the guy who should call him and give him chizuk. I know somebody from São Paulo, Brazil, who lost his entire left hand in a car accident. And he's a very wealthy, successful businessman. And he's a wonderful person. So I was thinking, I should call him and let him call this kid Nehemiah and give him chizuk. Sure enough, I called one of his relatives, and because I know his daughter, and I said, would you tell your father about this boy? Maybe he would write him an email and tell him Mazel Tov. She calls me back, get me the email address. My father wants to write him. So I thought he'll write him 1 paragraph. He sent him a letter of 3 pages. 3 pages. Now I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I want to show you what it means when somebody gives chizuk to somebody else. So this is from a man by the name of Wally Stern. in Sao Paulo. He writes, Dear Nehemiah, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. On the occasion of your Bar Mitzvah, it's my privilege and honor to wish you from the bottom of my heart that Hashem grant you to always go from strength to strength and merit to become an Adam Gadol. He says, my name is Wally Stern. I'm 89 and I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I lost my entire left arm in a car accident at the age of 19. At the time I was completely devastated. But the first thought flashing through my mind was, I will not let this accident drag me down and stop me in life. I will try and be the best that I can be and continue life as usual. And then he explains to him, what does it mean to have a handicap? He says a handicap is only a handicap if you believe that it is. But if you believe that you're normal like everybody else, everybody's going to treat you normal. And then he says, I have done many things for many, many people. And if you take a look tonight at the Art Scroll Shas, you have it in the back here, or you have it in your house, look at Masechta Huriyos. Mr. Stern sponsored that Masechta. And he tells him, he says, I love this paragraph. He says, I've always loved to assist people wherever I could. My handicap has not withheld me from doing anything. Here's my favorite paragraph. I've never stopped me from driving a car. Imagine that, the guy's driving a car with one hand. I used to play tennis when I was younger. Imagine playing tennis with one hand. And I even started to ski at the age of 50. Imagine that, the guy's skiing with one hand. How many people have two hands and two legs and they can't ski? Right? He's skiing with one hand. He says, and I did so for many years. And then he writes, I know what it's going to be like for you this Shabbat. You're going to come up and read the Torah. Everybody's going to be looking at you. He said, well, you should get up there and just follow. Don't worry. Read the Torah seriously, tranquilly, and with confidence, as if there was no handicap. It will earn you the people's greatest respect. And then he writes, at the end of the day, the basis for people to decide how to relate to you is your own behavior and how you relate to yourself and your handicap. You know what the Father Brian told me? When he got this letter, he got this email, they printed it out, framed it, and they hung it up in his room. And that's what the kid is so proud of. Because here's a man who's old enough to be his great-grandfather and is telling him, you can do anything. You can play tennis, you can drive a car, you can become a millionaire, you can do anything. As long as you don't believe it's a handicap, it's not a handicap. That's what a compliment is all about. And when you talk like that to somebody who needs the chizuk, that's great. You build this child. I have no doubt that in 20 years, we're going to hear about this kid. He's going to do something great. And we'll all hear about him. You know why? Because Wally Stern and others gave him chizuk. And they gave him compliments. Now I'm going to tell you a story that is so beautiful. The punchline is in Yiddish. I don't expect here in Tov that you understand Yiddish. Well, some people do. But I'll translate it. But you'll see what greatness is all about. You won't believe this. There's a fellow in Lakewood. His name is Simcha Weinman. I didn't know who he was. He called me up. He wanted to tell me a story. He said he's a famous photographer in Lakewood. Fine. He does weddings. He does bar mitzvahs. He does different occasions. And he's a very good photographer. He says, you know what my favorite thing to do? I love to photograph great rabbis learning Torah. And then he tells me, I can't learn so good. I try very hard to learn, but somehow it doesn't go into my head. I struggle. And it bothers me terribly. But at least I could get some pictures of great rabbis. And I like to hang them up and look at them, because that gives me chizuk. So he told me in 1997, he decided he's going to go to Israel, and he's going to get a picture of the Gadol Hador at that time, Rabbi Yashiv. And Rabbi Yashiv every morning got up at 3:30, and 4 o'clock he would sit by an open window, and he would sit and learn. Now anybody who knows anything about Rabbi Yashiv knows that ever since he was a little boy, he always learned the Gemara out loud, and he sang it with a song. And this I want to tell to all the men and all the boys here. Every time you learn Gemara, say the words out loud. That's what the Gemara says. Otherwise, you're going to forget it. You know, because when it's quiet, it goes in one ear, goes out the other ear, you know, goes through your head, but you forget it. Mm-hmm. Right? But the point is, if you say it out loud, you remember. And he always sang with that song. So this Simcha Weinman tells me one morning he gets up at 3:30, and he goes to Rabbi Yashiv's house. And sure enough, he sees in the distance He's sitting by the window. And he gets very up close, tiptoes, he doesn't want to disturb Rabbi Yashiv. And he picks up his camera, he frames the picture perfect, and he looks through the camera lens and he sees the most gorgeous sight. The Tzaddik Hador, the Gadol Hador, is sitting and learning with his beautiful tune. And he is so taken by this scene, he just puts down his camera and he starts crying. He's so overwhelmed at the beauty of that scene. Well, at 4 o'clock in the morning, you could hear a voice because nobody's talking or anything. Rabbi Yasser was learning. All of a sudden, he hears somebody crying. Looks up, there's a guy with a camera, and he's crying. So he calls him in. He says, come in, come inside. He comes inside. And Rabbi Yasser says to him, why are you crying? He says, Rebbe, I'm a photographer, and I love to take pictures of tzaddikim learning Torah. I can't learn Torah. I wish that I could learn. I find it very hard to understand. And I wish that I could learn, but I love Talmidei Chachamim who sit and learn. And then all of a sudden he starts crying again. And Rabbi Yasher, wait till he finishes crying and listen to what Rabbi Yasher says to him. I'm going to say it in Yiddish, and then I'm going to translate. He said to him, Deine Yiddische Tränen sind wert mein ganzes Lernen. Your Jewish tears are worth my whole learning. In other words, you have such tears of sincerity. It's so precious by Hashem. It's just like all my learning. The guy told me he was so moved, he started crying again. But then when he got back to Lakewood, he hired somebody half his age, even though it was embarrassing. But he learns every morning. Why does he learn every morning? Because Rabbi Yashiv built him up, made him feel special, that his tears are worth something. And if his tears are worth something, it's worth the effort to learn. And I'll tell you another thing. During the Second World War, even before the war, Reb Chaim Oizer Grzinski in Vilna was considered the Gadol Hador together with the Chavetz Chaim. So one day, a young man in his early 20s comes into Reb Chaim Oizer Grzinski, and he says to him, Rebbe, could the Rebbe give me a bracha that I won't have to go to the Russian army? So, of course, the kid didn't want to go to the Russian army. Nobody wants to go to the army over there. They'll be stuck there forever. And who knows what could happen on the front. So Rabbi Yashu takes a look, not Rabbi Yashu, Rabbi Chaim Oizer takes a look at this boy, and he says to him, are you ashamed of Shabbos? The boy couldn't lie. He says, no. He says, do you wear tefillin? The boy says, no. He says, do you wear tzitzis? He says, no. So Rabbi Chaim Oizer says, I give you a blessing that the Russian government should be as disappointed in you as I am. Imagine that? That's what he told me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, a great line, right? I give you a blessing that the Russian government should be as disappointed in you as I am. And you know what happened? Next week he came back. The kid comes back. He said, Rebbe, your bracha was Mukuyim. They rejected me. And then he picked up a shirt and he showed the Rebbe he was wearing tzitzit and he wore tefillin and he was a Shem Shabbos the rest of his life. Why? Because Rabbi Chaim Oizer could have blown him out of the water. He could have criticized him. Wow, chutzpah, you're not Shem Shabbos, you don't wear tefillin, you don't wear tzitzit, you asking me for a bracha? What kind of business is this? No, but that's not what he did. He understood this is a kid that has potential. You don't wipe away anybody, just like Rabbi Trank didn't wipe away that boy who stole his car and went to the movies Friday night. But he gave him his kavod, but he got the message across, just like Rabbi Chaim Oizer got the message across. And that's what we have to do. We don't have to hurt people. You can get the message across in a nice way, with dignity. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu did. He dealt with his Talmud, Yeshua, as an equal. And that's what we've come tonight. The night before Rosh Hashana, we have to make up that we're going to give chizuk to people. We're going to build people, not break people. It's so easy to break people. And when you break people, and you make nasty comments, sometimes they can be affected for life. Sometimes a parent or a teacher says something to a child, and the kid is hurt for many, many years, and the teacher forgot about what they said 5 minutes later. There's a story that I tell many, many times. When I was in the 9th grade in Torah V'das, we had a great teacher. He was my favorite teacher. Now, in the 9th grade, I was already beginning to write, because I always learned writing from my mother. And my mother came to PTA. You know what PTA is? You know, when you get reports from the teacher. So the teacher said to my mother, Mrs. Krohn, your son is a good writer, but he'll never write a book. So my mother said to the teacher, why do you say he won't write a book? Not that my mother was thinking in the 9th grade that I'm going to write books. He said, nah, he's too religious. Nobody's ever going to read what he writes. Fine. So surely, Abe, it's an honor to see you. So this Abe Roosevelt, big tzaddik. So now, listen to this. So now what happened was, so my mother comes home. I'm sure that this teacher surely forgot what he said by the time the next mother came in. My mother didn't forget, and she told me, and I surely didn't forget. So 25 years later, when my first book on stories, The Maggid Speaks, came out, I went looking for Mr. Rosa. I wanted to see if this guy's still alive. And sure enough, he was in Hafton, Long Island. He was the head of the English department. I called him up. I said, Mr. Oza, remember 25 years ago you were a teacher in Torah Vodaas? He said, yeah, I had some good years there. I said, you know, my name is Paysach Krohn. Do you remember me? He said, I think I do. I said, you know, I have a present for you. He said, if 25 years you got a present for me? Well, that's so nice. I said, when can I bring it to you? He said, you got a present, you can bring it tomorrow. I said, okay, fine. I'll be there. I come the next day, and I bring him our graduation book. He wrote a nice letter to the graduates. I showed him how handsome he used to be. And then I said to him, Mr. Oz, I want to tell you something. I'm sure you don't remember this. But you told my mother that I would never write a book. And I just want to show you, I wrote a book on Jewish short stories. It's published by ArtScroll. And I want to give it to you, and I'm going to autograph it for you. Well, the guy goes crazy. He comes out of his big desk, he puts his arm around me, and he says, come with me. He takes me into one of his classes, and he says, boys, I want to show you a former student of mine. He just wrote a book, and I taught him how to write. Let him think that he taught me how to write. But the point is, what if I, in 1984, when I started writing this book, would have thought, oh, I can't write a book. My favorite teacher said I can't write a book. So then all these books that came out, and hopefully good stuff came from it, it wouldn't have happened. You can't listen to what your mother-in-law says about you. And you can't listen to what your brother-in-law or sister-in-law you haven't spoken to in 2 years says about you. Every one of us can be great. And sometimes, if you don't get compliments from somebody, you got to compliment yourself. You know what the Tzidkas HaTzadik says? There's 3 things you got to believe in. You have to believe in Torah, you have to believe in Hashem, you have to believe in yourself. Okay, so that's hard, because many of us have low self-esteem. We compare ourselves to other people. And you know something? This is very sad what I'm going to tell you. There was a study done recently, and they realized that only 8% of humanity fulfills their potential. 92% of people could accomplish great things, but they don't do it. So some could be lazy, but many of them, they don't believe in themselves. And that's why we need each other, to give kavod and compliment to each other. And then when you do that, then of course people can accomplish great things. So I want to tell you about a great thing that's going on in this community, that every one of us can participate. And because Pinchas is such a great person and a humble person, and he helped start something in this community, that we could help so many people, and that's what this is right over here, the organization, the Gemach of Tov. Now, there are many people in Kew Garden Hills, and in Forest Hills, and in Kew Gardens, that are suffering financially. Many of them cannot pay tuition. Many of them cannot pay the doctor bills. Many of them can't even pay grocery bills. Where are they going to get money? So we have a great organization, the Gemach from Tov, that will either lend them money or give them money. But this Gemach is not endless. We have to support it. How are we going to do that? So Pinchas and I were talking, and we decided that tonight we're going to present a new idea. And I'm telling you, I made a cheshbon, you will not believe. If everybody here, and people that are listening, let's see, 200 people, that'll be the goal. And I'll show you why that's a great goal. 200 people agree to give $1 a day. That's it, just $1. First of all, every single day you'll have a mitzvah of tzedakah. So if you give $365 a year, or maybe you might have to be $370 because of the paperwork from the bank, they'll take the dollar out of your bank every day, or else you could pay for it, by weeks or months or whatever. Now listen to this, the cheshbon, you will not believe. If let's say we get $200, 200 people, right, to give $1 a day. After 1 month, because there's 200 people giving $1 a day, after 1 month, the gemach will have $6,000. And after a year, if we do this, we get 200 people to sign up for a year, we'll have $72,000. You know what that means? He won't have any more gray hair, right? Because everybody's going to support the gemach. And that's very important. Do you know how many people call me that they're trying to get into schools and the schools don't want to take them because they can't pay the tuition? It's a very big problem today. Tuitions are very expensive. And the schools around here are excellent. We know they're excellent. But they have teachers to pay. They have principals to pay. It's not easy to keep a school going today. But the idea is that chizuk that we can give so many people. And you know something? When you have a synagogue that's led by Rabbi Tzadka, you have an organization like Tov, and it gives chizuk to people, especially if it gives chizuk to people on finances, to people that are not so religious, they will say, oh, you know something? It pays to be religious. Because look at the chesed they do. So not only are you helping these people financially, but you're also doing something that's very, very special and giving people chizuk, and they'll come closer to Yiddishkeit. So let's go back to compliments. And by the way, everybody can get one of these pamphlets. And you know something? We decided we're going to give a gift to anybody who signs up for giving $1 a day for a year. I'm going to give you a free gift. Not only to Mr. Oza, I'll give you a gift also. And I'll sign it. And this book is called The Glittering World of Chesed. Fabulous, fabulous stories in here. You will learn ideas of doing chesed that people have done either in Australia, Mexico, and Chicago, and New York, all over the place. Fabulous ideas. And great people. We have a lot of great people on Klal Yisrael. Just remember that. Most of the time we criticize certain people. You read this book, you'll see what kind of great people we have. Men, women, and children who do fabulous things. I'll just tell you one little boy, a bar mitzvah boy. It's hard to believe, in the 5 towns. Comes from a little bit of a wealthier family. And he saw that not everybody in his class was able to have a bar mitzvah like him. You know what he did? He took some of his money that he got for the bar mitzvah, gifts, and he started a fund. And he started collecting from other people, for other kids in the class. They should also be able to have a nice bar mitzvah. Because not everybody in the 5 towns is wealthy. And not everybody in his class. People sometimes lose jobs and they can't have a beautiful bar mitzvah like other kids make. So this kid, out of his own bar mitzvah money, started this fund. And I wrote about him. That's beautiful. And you'll hear dozens and dozens of stories like this. So tonight, before you leave, go over to Pinchas and tell him that you want to sign up. We'll get your name and address and we'll send you the book. It'll be terrific. Now, I want to tell you a story about a certain father. Now this father had a son, and when the boy was very little, before he was 3 years old, they didn't cut his hair. And we know that that's a minhag in many, many families. And they don't cut the hair till they're 3 years old. They give him a haircut, and he has peyot, and it's really very beautiful. But this little boy had big, big bushy hair. And many times when he would ride his bike before he was 3 years old, the yarmulke would fly off. So sometimes he picked up the yarmulke, sometimes he didn't pick up, and his father would get very upset. And one night the father was sitting by his own desk, and this little boy was riding his bicycle, and the yarmulke came flying off. And the father got so upset. He got up, he stood up, and he said, "You're such a..." And then he caught himself. What, is he crazy? He's going to call his child a name? So he said, "Tzaddik! You're such a tzaddik. How could you drop your yarmulke and not pick it up?" And I'm embarrassed to tell you, I was that father. But I want to tell you something. From that night on, my son never, ever dropped his yarmulke again, either riding a bike or on the basketball court without picking it up right away. You know what? Because he's a tzaddik. His father called him a tzaddik. So how could he not pick up his yarmulke? Now, let's watch a pasuk. and we'll see something that Shlomo HaMelech told us, that every father, every mother, every teacher, every grandparent should know this pasuk by heart. Because many times we violate it. I'll tell you the simple pshat in the pasuk, then I'll tell you how some of our should learn the pasuk. The pasuk is in Mishlei Tes, pasuk Ches. It tells us, Al tochach leitz, do not give musar to a joker. Pen Yisrael is going to hate you. A guy who's a joker is not serious about life. He's not interested in your musar. Hocheach l'chocham, give musar to a chacham. Oh yeah, then they will love you. So that's the simple meaning. But the way Mefarshim understand it is different. Al tochach leitz, do not give musar by calling a person a bad name. Pen Yisrael is going to hate you. Tell a kid he's a tzaddik, he's a chacham. Oh, yeah, he's going to love you. So that kid today, my son, Rabbi Eliezer, you could go on TorahAnytime.com. He's got 400 shiurim. He's got more than me on TorahAnytime.com. He's a bright kid. Baruch Hashem, he's married, he's writing a sefer for halachot for women. It's going to be published by Art Scroll soon. But when you call a child a good thing, then the child is elevated to that. But chas v'sholom, you say a terrible thing, the kid could be, hurt for life because of it. We have to be very careful. Now I want to tell you a great story that I heard just recently from my dear friend Rabbi Moshe Tuv. He's a Rav in Brooklyn, and as soon as he told the story, people started calling me, you got to hear this story. It's really amazing. Now here we'll see what it means when somebody takes pride in something. So this story happened the past summer in Bnei Brak. There was a school, a yeshiva, and there was a girls' school also in Bnei Brak. And both the schools wanted to rent out a water park for the kids because it was very hot. And the boys were going to go one day and the girls were going to go another day. But then the Rebbe of the boys, they took all the kids, they took on 2 buses from the 4th grade to the 8th grade. And then when the Rebbe gets off the bus, he goes by the water park, he hears a lot of noise. You think, what do you mean a lot of noise? This is for the boys that it is, nobody's supposed to be there. And he looks inside, he sees there's a whole bunch of girls there with their teachers. He says, oh my goodness, he goes over to the owner of the place, he said, what's going on here? Today's the day that the boys' yeshiva was supposed to be here. He said, no, you're supposed to be here tomorrow. He said, no, I got an email today, there was a mix-up. However it was too late, they couldn't do anything, right? Because the girls were in there already. So of course the kids were so disappointed. Because after all, they were planning to go, swimming and down the slides and everything is very hot. So they're walking back and they're complaining. And then it was the 8th grade boy. So the 8th grade boy gathers all his friends from the 8th grade and he says, boys, let me tell you something. There's a phrase, Ashrenu Matov Chalkenu. Ashrenu, we're lucky. Matov Chalkenu, we have such a good portion. Hashem gave us the Torah. He gave us laws. He gave us Gedolim. He gave us Rabbanim. And if that's the law that you can't go mix swimming, we should be proud of it. Ashrenu, we're lucky. We have a Torah. And we have Rabbanim who enforce the laws. And he says, let's sing together. Ashrenu Matov Chalkenu. They start dancing. And it changed the mood of all the 8th graders. The Rebbe couldn't believe it. Here, 5 minutes ago, these kids were so angry. And this kid gives a speech, Ashrenu Matov Chalkenu, and the kids are dancing. Fine. The bus comes back to school. The Rebbe goes over to the principal. He says, you're not going to believe what happened. So the principal says, you're not going to believe what happened. He said, what do you mean? He said, there was a kid in the 4th grade who did the same thing. He said, what do you mean? He said, on the other bus, the kids were complaining. So there was a 4th grader who went over to the kids in his class. And he said, guys, we shouldn't be angry. We should be happy. Ashrenu Matov Chalkenu. We have a good Torah. We have Rabbanim who enforce the laws. We should be proud that we didn't go into the park when you're not supposed to go in. I couldn't believe it. The principal, this kid and their brothers. He said, who gives a chinuch like this? That's unbelievable. He calls the father of these boys. He says, you got to tell me, what kind of training? It's unbelievable. A 4th grader and an 8th grader, they do the same thing to me. So the guy says, listen, it's really my wife. So what do you mean it's your wife? He said, a few weeks ago, she took them shopping. It was very, very hot. And then we realized it Well, she realized she got to get the kids on the bus to get back home. So she grabbed a whole bunch of, I learned the word, I didn't know what it is, shluk. I guess like an ice pop in Hebrew, I don't know. An Israeli ice pop, it's called a shluk. I don't know, whatever. But okay, I mean, I could give it a better name, but oh, fine. Whatever. But then when the kids got on the bus, they took a look at the hashgacha, and it wasn't the best. It didn't mean it wasn't kosher, but the mother said, oy vey, I didn't realize, I just took a whole bunch of them, I didn't check the hashgacha. We don't eat this hashgacha. So the kids were a little bit upset. You know, it's a hot day, they wanted an ice pop, and they were ready on the bus. So she said to them, Ashreinu matov chalkeinu. You know, we're very lucky. We have high standards, we should be proud of it. And we should be proud that we're not eating it, because we're maintaining the halacha of what kashrus is all about. So he says, my two sons, they got it from the mother. He says, wow, what an incredible woman. That's amazing. And then the father starts laughing. So the principal said, why are you laughing? He said, I know you're not going to believe this, but last week my wife was walking with my 5-year-old daughter in the street, and a man came over and gave her a stick of gum. So she turned to my wife and she said, is this gum kosher or is this Ashreinu gum? So maybe we should make a brand Ashreinu gum, make it kosher. But how does that come? Because there's pride. There's pride. And when you give a compliment to someone, there's pride in that person. And when somebody feels proud of themselves or proud of Yiddishkeit, then they're going to do tremendous things. And that's what we're talking about. Giving compliments. So I'll tell you something, I know you're not going to believe this, but there's another guy who works for a very, very big Torah organization. Very big, and that you also know his name. I can't say his name, as you'll see in a second. He told me he was flying from Chicago to New York. They were about 200 miles away from New York. And the pilot announces that, within the hour they're going to land. And all of a sudden there was terrible, terrible turbulence. And the plane was bouncing up and down, and this guy told me, I thought I was going to die. I was positive the pilot lost total control of the plane. And the plane is going down and it's shaking. He said, I said, Shema Yisrael. I said, Hashem lo b'gadnu. I knew I'm out of here. And then he says, you know what? He says, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I realized that my life is over soon. So he says, you know what I was thinking? What are they going to write in the newspapers in Hamodia and Yated when it's over? That's what he was thinking. What are they going to write in the newspapers about him? And it's a joke. That's what a guy thinks when he's dying, what they're going to write in the newspapers about him, what good things he did. And you know what occurred to me? Why is it that way? Only after somebody dies, oh, you see his picture, oh, he's a big tzaddik, he did this, he did that, he did all the things. Why can't we tell the person when he's alive all the good things that he's doing? If you tell a person when he's alive all the good things that he does, he's going to continue doing more. By the time he's dead, there's nothing else he can do anymore, right? I have a friend who's very religious, but his mother is not. And his mother was in the 90s, and she recently died. I went to Bimenach Movel, and he said to me, you know what my mother once said to me? My mother said, listen, I don't know if you're going to say Kaddish for me afterwards. I'm not going to be around. I won't know the difference. But maybe you could compliment me while I'm still alive. It's nice to hear. Wow. Isn't that amazing? That's what his mother said to him. Say good things about me so I could smile, so I could hear it. What do you have to wait until I drop dead? Then you're going to tell everybody how good I was. And think about that. We never think about it that way. And there's a lot of good people that do great stuff. So I want to give you homework, okay? I hope nobody minds. From now till Rosh Hashana, tomorrow night, let's see if every person here can give 5 compliments. It shouldn't be too hard. And I have a secret. You're allowed to give your spouse a compliment. Many people don't know that. They think you're not allowed for whatever because they never do it. Right? When was the last time a man here, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, thanked your wife for the supper that she made? Just now. Right? And all the wives here are cooking you ready for Rosh Hashana for days and not weeks. Does anybody ever go over and say, thank you, we're going to have a great meal because of you? No, all you want to have is a piece of chicken, a piece of roast beef, or whatever you want to take it, when she's cooking it. And when was the last time any woman thanked her husband for the money that he brought home? Right? We're taking it for granted. Why should that be? Compliment each other. And when you compliment another person, you make that person feel special. And that's really what it's all about. So what time do we have?
Unlimited.
Unlimited. That's like the phone call is lost. We gotta say selichot, tomorrow I got bris. I don't want to fall asleep at the bris. That'd be terrible. So let me tell you one more thing, and then we'll review, and then we'll end with a fabulous story. There's a compliment that I started giving a couple years ago. It was, obviously very sincere. I meant it seriously. But I didn't realize what kind of great compliment and what kind of impression it makes on people. When you're at a big crowd like this, so there's all kinds of people, and you can tell who's listening. There's certain people that are so into it that, you can tell that they can repeat the whole speech, right afterwards. So sometimes after a speech, I remember I was out of town, I went over to a guy, I said, you're a good listener. And he said, oh, thank you very much. I came back to that town 3 years later, and the guy comes over to me and says, Rabbi, you remember me? I said, it's 3 years, I'm not sure if I remember you. He said, no, you said I was a good listener. So I'm supposed to remember. So recently I was in England, and there was a guy sitting up here and he was sleeping. After my second sentence, he was out of it. So after the speech, he comes over to me, and he says, Rabbi, I just want you to know, I fall asleep by every speaker, but I was up for your whole speech. I started telling him, I can bring Negovasa for you, in case you have to wash your hands if you sleep. You slept more than 60 weeks, but I didn't say anything. I held myself back. Okay? But the point is, you have to be able to give compliments. It's very important. Because you validate a person. So let's remember, Rav Hutton told us, the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu treated Yoshua like an equal, because that's the only way the covet and the validation and the respect of your Talmud has to be so important like yours. And that's why when we do that, then we're going to be able to battle against Amalek, and we'll be able to give over our children what we want to give over to them. So they'll appreciate what Yiddishkeit is all about. That's the first thing. Let's remember the beautiful story of Rabbi Trank. How he didn't say anything to that boy in the movie theater that would hurt him. And then eventually that boy swore that he would never be Machal Shabbos, and he became a great person. Let's remember how Mr. Wally Stern from Sao Paulo gave the chizuk to that boy in Houston, who has only one arm. And when the parents got that letter, they hung it up, because that was tremendous chizuk for that little boy. Let's remember that we have to give compliments. Never call a child a name. Because if you call a name, the kid can be ruined forever. Let's remember how Rabbi Chaim Oizer, how he said to that little boy, not that little boy, that young man, he said, I give you a bracha that the Russian government should be as disappointed in you as I am. And then, let's remember how Rabbi Eliashiv said to that young photographer, that your Yiddish tears, your Jewish tears, are worth my whole learning. And let's remember tonight to give chizuk to our own community, to this great gemach of Tov, and come to Pinchas right afterwards. And sign up for $1 a day. It's not a lot. Today, a cup of coffee, how much is a cup of coffee? It's $1 a day, right? So, and if you do that, in a month, the gemach will have 6,000. In a year, it will have 72,000. And Abe deserves some credit for that also, because you were one of the ones who started this gemach, right? If I remember correctly. Hashem should bless you with good health.
Amen.
And your dear wife tomorrow, who's probably someplace here. But so I just want to end just with this beautiful, beautiful story. After the Second World War, there were many people that came to places that they were called DP camps. DP stands for displaced persons, because they had no place to go. And they were displaced. And they had to be there until they could get a visa, until they could get permission to enter a certain country, or any country that it was. And one of the people that was in these displaced camps was the Kloisenberger Rebbe. He was a very, very great tzaddik. And Nebuch, he lost a wife and 11 children. Imagine that, he lost a wife and 11 children. And he once said something so painful. He said that the Paysach tells us in Bereshis Lamed Beis Chotam, Vayikochem Vayavirem Es Hanocham. Yaakov Avinu had a wife and 11 children, and he took them over the stream. And he said, the pasuk means he took them over the stream of water. But I also had a wife and 11 children, and I brought them over the stream, but it was a stream of blood, because I lost all of them. But still, he gave chizuk to everybody that he could. And one day they came over to him and they said, you know, there's a boy, Meshulam. And Meshulam used to be religious, but he lost his parents and his siblings in the Holocaust. And he threw away everything from Yiddishkeit. No more tefillin, no more tzitzit, no more shema, nothing. No davening, no kippah, nothing. They said, Rabbi, could you speak to him? The Rabbi said, of course. Tell him to come and tell him I want to see him. And then they went to this boy, Meshulam, used to be a Hasidic boy, and they said, the Rebbe wants to speak to you. Now, he knew what the Rebbe was going to try to tell him, so he was not interested. But it's the Rebbe. How could you not go to the Rebbe, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, the big tzaddik? So he decided he's only going to give one-word answers, and he's not even going to look at the rabbi. Like this, he doesn't have to get into a conversation. So he comes inside, and the Rebbe says, you're Meshulam, right? He says, yeah. He says, you're the son of Banish. He says, yeah. He said, I heard that you used to be a big masmid. That means somebody who learns a lot of Torah. He says, yeah. He's trying to avoid the Rebbe's glance. And then suddenly the Rebbe said something that he wasn't expecting. He didn't think the Rebbe would say something like that to him. And the Rebbe said to him, you're angry, right? He looked up. He said, I know why you're angry. You're angry because they took the best ones and they left you. He said, I feel the same way. I had a wife and 11 children. They were all better than me. They took the best ones and they left me. I feel the same way as you do. You're upset because they took the best ones and they left you. That's how I feel. And suddenly the Rebbe started crying and he put his head on Meshulam's shoulder. And when Meshulam saw the Rebbe and he felt the warmth of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe was crying and he kept on repeating, they took the best ones and they left us. All of a sudden, his heart burst and he started crying. And Meshulam told me here in Kew Garden Hills. He lived in Baltimore, but he had a relative here in Kew Garden Hills. And I met him in the kitchen, one place in a house here. And he said, we cried for 25 minutes straight. And all the Rebbe kept on saying over and over, they took the best ones and they left us. And he said, after 25 minutes, he kissed me on my forehead. And he said, goodbye. He said, be well. He said, that night was the first night I said Kriyat Shema in 5 months. He said, slowly but surely I came back to religion. I said to Meshulam, I said, tell me, what was the difference the way everybody spoke to you and the Rebbe spoke to you? Why nobody could change you, but the Rebbe did, and he didn't even speak directly about this idea of becoming back religious. He said, I'll tell you why. He said, because everybody spoke to my head, but the Rebbe spoke to my heart. And that's how you change people. When you give a compliment and you tell somebody, you know something, I love how you daven, you inspire me how you daven. If you mean it sincerely, that person's going to feel wonderful. But if you don't mean it sincerely, they'll know in a second. When you tell somebody it's great to see you and you give them a warm handshake or you give them a hug and you make them feel special and they believe that you mean it, you get the heart of the person, you can change them, you elevate them, you validate them. But if you say something like that and you don't really mean it, it's nothing. It's even worse than nothing. Because the person knows you're not sincere. So tonight, we have less than 24 hours till Rosh Hashana. And we have to make up our minds, we're going to do teshuvah. How are we going to do teshuvah? We're going to build people. We're not going to break people. We're going to give compliments. We're going to give $1 a day. Pinchas will take care of it. And we'll be able to help so many people, even in this room, that we don't even realize that they need the help. And that's the beauty of this organization. Because everything is kept private. Nobody knows who gets the money, only those that are in charge. They would never tell anything to anyone. And Rav Tzadka and Pinny and Abe, they deserve the credit for starting this. Hashem should bless each and every one of us. We should be able to fulfill our potential. Amen. We should do tshuva and elevate ourselves, elevate the others in Klal Yisrael. Amen. So that this year, Tov Shin Pei, what does Pei mean? Pidyon. Tehei Shnas Pidyon. It should be the year of Pidyon when Hashem He redeems us and takes us out of Golos and brings us to Yerushalayim.
Amen.
Thank you.
We want to thank Rabbi Paysach Krohn. He's an old friend. We were in Europe together, and Baruch Hashem, we had the schut to work together, my wife as well, and we made some tshuva there. Remember?
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem. I just want to add one thing about the Gmach. If you know what the Gmach is all about, when you lend somebody money under special conditions, he has to pay it back because the money keeps on rolling again. Some people have some money in a bank doing nothing. You could lend it to the Gmach with the same receipt that you're going to get the Gmach, you're going to get your money back. It's going to work. Instead of sitting dormant someplace and not doing a thing. Make it work for you. And right now, before Rosh Hashana, Yom Kippur, everybody wants to do something special to elevate himself and to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give him what he wants. And B'ezrat Hashem, you won't have the schut to go into these holidays with chesed, as the Rabbi said.
God bless you. Of course,